welcome to another edition of UFO Encounters and Cryptid Phenomenon with Russ and Grizzly. Hello there, Denise. Welcome. Hello, everybody. How you doing, Russ?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Not too bad. It's been a bit of a strange weekend, really.
Has it? I love your videos you were showing me before the show and, a couple of days ago and last night. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, well, to be quite honest, I'd sent them across, but I had them on. I've got them on this other computer, which I've tried to use, and when I've come upstairs, because I don't use it up here, I've realised it doesn't have one of these cables. Fnet cables. Like
right.
It's not good at getting the Wi-Fi up here. I'll tell you what I want to do, right? Yeah. So what I want to do. Whilst we're talking, what happened was, the other night when I was out, what was it now? It must have been Saturday.
Hey, Roger, everybody, welcome to the show.
Saturday night, I think it was, when I'd been out, and sort of like early, morning sort of thing. And to cut a long story short, there'd been this light above the house, the row of houses, and I was looking at it and I'm thinking, right, we've got the moon over in the east, and it's northeast, so it's not the moon. I'm thinking, what's that bright light, behind it? You could see it coming across, like above the house tops. And so I'm in round the patio at the back of the house sort of thing. And what I do is I take my mobile, and it's got this app on, which I showed you earlier, which is my camera, security camera, for want of a better name. But
right.
Obviously, for UFOs, sort of like, because not getting out as much as I used to with me walking. Bit of a lazy man's way of doing things. So in comfort of your own home, basically, what you can do is sit and press record, or you can have it a timer, right? So I'll press it, sort of like around about maybe 12 o'clock or 11, and then sort of like have a look at 3 in the morning, or put it on at 1, depending on what I'm doing. So I've already switched it on and gone outside, and I can see something in the sky. Is my sound too loud on there, by the way?
No.
Right. So when I go out, I've got it full. Right. Turn it down. Right. Because it's echoing a bit. So when I went outside, I noticed, in the sky, something appearing. And it wasn't 100% clear, but it was clear enough. So I had quite a bit of pain, and I thought, you know what? I'll just get my camera and have a look to see if it's picking up the same things, on my Sony Handycam, what I've got. I charged it up, and all of a sudden, it just went dead. Now, the thing is, I didn't have a lot of power in it. So I ain't saying it was zapped or anything. I thought, oh, right, I should have left it on a bit longer. So this is what it's like. And this is now. This is live now.
Okay.
So what I'm doing is I'm thinking to myself, quite a bit of pain. I need the painkiller. You know what I mean? So I goes in to the front room and sat down where patio is, And I'm looking and I'm thinking, you know, there's a lot of activity out there up in Skye. So I'm looking at it, you know, and I'm like this looking. I've taken a tablet and sort of like I nearly choked because the next thing there's this like a flash, and around the camera there's this like light around the camera on the right hand side, or you know, like here.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it toodles across to other side where this big light is. What I've been looking at, and I'm thinking that's a bit strange. So I'm thinking, right, I'm going to go now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and have a look out at patio instead, because big patio door, and I'm looking, and I'm not really seeing anything. So I thought to myself, I'll put the camera on charge. So I went and put the camera on charge to go back to the patio, and I sat down, and the next thing, the same thing happens again. And this time there's like a bird flying, and it's sort of like, it looks like it nearly eats the bird. And it zaps down, and this time the light is at the left-hand side and it moves to the right-hand side. So my sister said, you know, sort of like, what are you sat with your mouth open for like that? And I says, you know, I'm sort of like looking at something. I don't know what I'm looking at. You know, says, I can't figure this out. And then all of a sudden, there's other things going on, you know, sort of like lights and what have you. So, you know, sort of like, I just could not believe it. But the problem was, I'd taken painkillers and I really was not well, you know what I mean? Sort of like, and by this time, it's quite late, you know what I mean? It's quite late in the morning, like 5 o'clock. You know what I mean? Sort of like,
Right.
So I basically contacted you and said, I'm sending you over.
Yeah, it was late.
See, I mean, I've got it on now. This is happening now. Can you see? Right, this isn't happening now.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if you can see how happening, but I've just been watching as we're talking. There's things moving around and shooting down. I don't know. It'll just probably be one of those things. No, it'll happen now. I've brought it up here.
But you are in a bed of hot spots over there in UK for UFOs.
Well, yeah. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on record now. Right, I'm recording that now. I've just turned record on. So, yeah, see what happens. That's right. Yeah, this area. I came round here in 1990. I think it was 97. I came around on an investigation, and we went from Hull and came up to Bridlington and up to Filey and Scarborough. And we were meeting people, and they were telling us, you know, sort of like what they'd seen, you know. And round here, we've got a place. I think I told you, the place called Flixton Werewolf. Now over in the corner, there's the Flamborough Lighthouse and Bridlington, and there's a place well known. A lot of people know about it. I was first introduced to that quite a few years ago, back in, I think it was back in 1990, about 98, and we went over there filming. And there's also RAF Filey, an abandoned. Some people call it Filey. Some other people call it other names and what have you. But a lot of people around here remember it as RAF Filey. And there's all sorts of strange things gone on there. I think somebody was found in a car dead or something, and there's people go missing. And it's not somewhere where you want to go. I've been, and I didn't like it. So there's that area. And just around, there's a place called Danesdyke, and it's like, what do you call it? Like Stone Age works and what have you, with mounds and what have you. And just near there, there's also a chap saw something, and he drew it, and it was in the paper years ago, back in, I think it was 1990. And he saw this creature. You need to speak to him get him on your show. Actually, he drew this like Dogman, right?
Wow.
I had him on my Facebook, and I've lost a lot of people. I don't know what's happened, and all of a sudden, 500 people just appeared that I didn't even know. Facebook's
we were
500
talking about
people.
that the other day. You remember?
Yeah, and sort of like when other people have said, "Yeah, they've done that to me." Anyway, so the thing is, I'm trying to get him back because I've reached my limit, so I'm having to get rid of people. Some people I've never even seen to get him back on. Anyway, so what happens is he's seen this near this fence, and he's drawn it. It's an amazing drawing. I've got it somewhere from the paper, but I can't show you because it's the chaps, you know what I mean? Anyway, so the thing is, also around that area, we've had Captain Schaffner. I was talking about the jet, and they were chasing a UFO, and it landed not far from there in the North Sea. And when they pulled the jet out of the sea, the canopy hadn't been moved. It hadn't been turned back or anything, like moved back. The seat was still intact. And so were the rig, for the ejector seat and everything. Everything was intact. He hadn't hit it to open, you know what I mean? It was all intact. So it was nowhere to be seen. I never found him.
Really?
And that's 1970. You can have a look. You can put jet fighter, lightning fighter, 1970, chasers UFO, find jet in North Sea near Flamborough or Bridlington. Well known. It's a well-known case. I was looking at that years ago. So that happened, and I can see over that area where the lighthouse is. Now, I'm filming things around near there. I'm videoing things a bit closer to my home, which is like due east. I'm filming stuff over at there's a place called Filey Brig, and I actually filmed something like a dolphin. Right, yeah. So this object, I'm saying, it's a balloon. It's got to be a balloon, yeah. And I'm looking, and I'm zooming in and panning back, and sort of like zooming in, and I'm thinking, and it's a pretty good zoom on the camera because it's got a 2x magnification. So that means it's 150 times. So times by 2. So you've got 300 zoom. And it's optical zoom, not digital zoom, right? So you can, zoom in pretty damn close to objects, right? So I'm zooming in, not going too close because it gets blurred, obviously. And I'm looking and I'm thinking, there should be a tether right? You should see a tether underneath it. And I'm looking at the people on the ground, right? Yeah, with kites and things. And I'm looking, and there's nobody directly underneath it holding it. There's nobody to the sides holding it. You know, like if it's moving with the wind, it doesn't appear to be moving with the wind because it's static, but it's moving around, and it appears to be looking around it all the way around.
Wow.
So, you know, so I'm thinking to myself, so there's that. Then me and Joe, we were out and at the bandstand, and we both got cameras. We both got the same camera, more or less, Sony night vision. Am I allowed to say that anyway?
Yeah, you can.
Advertising. So we both got with night vision, with night shot. And so we're both filming the same thing. And this object's moving from, I think it was right to left. And then all of a sudden it stops and reverses. And then it comes forward over us. And then there's no sound. You can hear, we're talking, so you can hear us talking.
Now, are these the flying triangles that you've gotten, or these are different ones?
This is another time. Now, when we were looking at the objects, there were like two diffused lights. Yeah, they were just dull lights. Now, the thing is, when you look through the vid, when you're looking through the video, you know, at these, you can see like there is a slight reddish color and a green color, oh, very slight. And I'm saying, oh, it's got to be a plane. That's because it's port and starboard, red and green. Port is red and starboard is green. So, but the thing is, there is nothing in between the lights. There's nothing. There's no wings. There's no fuselage. And when it comes overhead, you can actually see the stars. You can see it going past and you see stars going through it. Not a lot of them, but I think there's one or two stars that you just see go through. So you can clearly see that it's like there's nothing there. It's invisible in the middle. You know, sort of like if there's anything, if it's attached, you know, you're not seeing it. Or as people, you know, there's this terminology. I don't like using it. I never have done. But they say, oh, it's cloaking. You know what I mean? These things cloak, and they can put an image outside around. So you just say, well, the thing is, it's in the middle. So you're defeating the object in a way, I suppose. You know what I mean? So there's that. So we've got that. We've got the dolphin. Then I've been out with a couple of people.
Now, when you say dolphin, explain to everybody what you're referring to.
To the right, the dolphin, which the first one, and that's at Filey Brig, right? Yeah. And like I said, that were a different time, you know, in the summer.
Does it look like a dolphin in the sky? Or
yeah. That was the first one of the first, you know, sort of like I filmed over at Filey Brig. So I'm at the bandstand filming that over at Filey Brig, right?
Right.
Where it's there used to be like all these Roman towers around here, you know, like to warn, you know, like further down the coast, you know, like the other Romans and inland, you know. And there's one just outside of my house in the park. We've got one of these. There's like 4 big stones where they must have had wood, you know, like in them, you know, for where they climbed up into these big towers, you know. So the second one I was talking about is I call it Tom and Jerry because it's like two lights and they're always together. These lights are always together. There's always two of them. Right, yeah? And usually they're just balls of light. You know, bright balls of light. Sometimes, you know, they can be dim, but they're always together. So I just coined the phrase, you know, it's Tom and Jerry again. Tom and Jerry's back, you know. So then I went, I was at the bandstand, and then I walked across to the where there's a golf, a little putting, you know, green and what have you, at the other side of Filey at this park. So I was sat across there, and looking down, you can see there's like a little swimming pool. It's been in the pit. In fact, I don't know if I'm allowed to show it, but it's in the paper, and you can see the swimming pool, and you can see the actual front of, you know, like Filey, you know, like the prom sort of thing. And at the other side, there is the lighthouse at Flamborough. So I'm sat here and I'm seeing all this around me. When I see, originally there were one ball of light, and then there were two balls, and then there were like six. And what it was were two flying triangles. That were in last week's paper. I think that were in the one. There's a video of that in last week's paper, and that is the flying triangles coming out of Filey Bay. So the thing is, I'm saying, is this, someone said about B2, no, yeah, B2 bombers that they can stop. Someone was saying, I'd heard him saying this, and he was saying that they can do all sorts, they can stop and do all sorts. And this is a bomber, and I'm thinking, a bit big, really, for bombers to be hovering, you know what I mean? Right. So when I'm filming, I'm saying, is it a B-52? Is it bomber, you know? And I'm meaning, is it a B-2 bomber? And I'm looking, and I'm taking my eyes off the ball because there's things shooting down at this object, right? And this object was in the sea, and now it's in the sky. And there's these things coming down and shooting, like just like balls of light coming down. And now when I pan back out, I can see that object is like two objects now together, side by side. And eventually, when it goes down towards where the plane crashed, towards the lighthouse, Flamborough and Bridlington, going down the coast, it looks like two crosses in the sky. Right? It looks like two crosses. Well, I had when it went in the paper, I had everybody that were telling me, oh, look, I know what it was. I can tell you now, nothing to get worried about. It was an aeroplane refueling. And I said, well, the problem with that is, right, to refuel an aeroplane, because they use gravity fed, right? So you've got to be above the objects. He's looking at an image and the side by side. I have never seen any aircraft, yeah, being fed fuels, you know, what do you call it? Fuel,
right?
Aviation fuel, side by side.
No, it's never side by side. It's always behind.
Never seen it, and it's always above, because it has to. It's gravity fed, and it runs down, because they can see the nozzle going to the top of the filling point, right? So I'm saying, well, no, because you've got to be able to see clearly where the nozzle's going in to the back of the aircraft, to the fuel tank, where the nozzle goes in to refuel. you know, by that line, you know, sort of like, oh, no, you're wrong. I said, no, I'm not wrong. I said, I can guarantee I'm not wrong. Well, what do you know anyway? You'd be surprised. So that was one idea shut down straight away about this, you know, silly business about, you know, sort of like fueling, you know, sort of like whilst, you know, it's flying. Just like, and this is the funniest one of all, when we were in the paper asking, did anybody see this dolphin? And I think it was 3 people rung up, right? Yeah, all and claiming that it were them that were flying a dolphin-shaped balloon, alien balloon.
Really?
And I'm saying, really? Yeah. I went and asked on the day if anybody, you know, had any dolphin-shaped balloons around here for sale. No, we haven't got any of them. Oh, right. Okay. So a couple of days later, it went in the paper and my telephone number were in. And so I had people ringing us up and I'm saying, all right, I'd be interested to hear this. Because I'd realised, you know, that there's no tether on this thing. And it's just looking around. It is just looking around. It stayed there for ages looking around.
Like
Instead of going
scouting.
straight up. Alien balloons go straight up. You
like
know.
it was scouting.
Yeah, exactly. You just hit the nail on the head there. So the thing is, one, it was a woman that rung and she says, oh, you know, it was me. Oh, what colour was it? I asked her. And, and then in the background, you can hear this bloke shout, ask him what colour it was. You know what I mean? And she goes, oh, what colour was it? I says, bright blue, pink with yellow spots. You know, sorry. I says, I don't think it was you. Bye. In other words, I was taking, they're ringing up, you know, being silly. You know, I can be. Yeah, it wasn't. It was a very strange, you know, it was a very strange colour, to be quite honest. And with the cloud, it seemed to sort of like change colour. Anyway, so then we had somebody else and the very same thing happened again, you know, asking what colour it was, you know. And then bloke, oh, what colour was it that you saw? What colour was it? What you? I said, I didn't see it. I said, I saw it and filmed it. I says, are you referring to the one? I said, that's I've videoed. Oh, yes, of course. I mean that. And I said, well, what colour? Oh, I've asked first. I said, what? I said, are you some kind of child? I asked first. I says, you should know what colour it was. I said, if you had it and you were there, you know, sort of like, what kind of tether did you have? Put the phone down. You know, sort of like, I don't know whether these people want to try to be clever, you know, sort of like, or what, you know. But we used to have this Wally of the month for all the Wallies that rung up, and we used to pick the best one. You know, sort of like it was, you know, like messing about and oh, go on, let's have Wally. They think they're taking the mickey out of us, but believe me, we're sat listening to people trying to take a rise and me sort of like. But anyway, so the thing is, you know, no tether, people claiming, you know, it was them. They didn't even know what colour the object was, what there was flying. You know, you get this. Like I say, the one thing that I when I look and I'm saying to myself, you know, it's got, you know, this has got to be a bomber. And I'm thinking to myself, what are you talking about? It'd have been and gone. Any type of aircraft, there wouldn't be hanging around. What's the stall speed for a normal aircraft? You know what I mean?
Right.
You know,
even your biplanes and your single prop planes, and they don't stick around.
40 miles an hour at least. You know what I mean? And that's just the stall speed. That, you know, that means it's in danger and it might glide. But when you're talking about something like these things that are in the sea 1 minute and taking off and, and traveling, it's like, wow. But the funny thing is about the two flying triangles as well is that I was filming, I think it's 20 minutes long. And that's when I was just going back. I'm just saying I'm packing up and going in now when I noticed it. And I'm thinking, because you do see fishermen out there and you see boys as well with lights flashing. And I could see some of them. And I'm looking, I'm thinking, is that one of the boys? It's a bit close there because I don't usually see, because you get accustomed to seeing the sea. At least I used to back then. So I'm thinking to myself, two things. You can see it right next to the road when I first start filming. You can see the object. It's only small and it's a little light. It becomes 2 and then becomes 6. Right next to the road. So the thing is, why was there no sound?
Right.
There's got to be some kind of sound.
Right.
Now the other thing is this. I'm not 100%, but I was told this by somebody. It says, problem is, Russ, with anything that's submerged, it's very hard for submerged objects. Like he said, basically, it's like a submarine being able to take off and fly. You know what I mean? How hard would it be? You know what I mean? You've got a submerged object, but yeah, it's capable of being in the water, but yeah, it's taken off and it's flown. And I'm saying it's flown as good as it's been in the sea. Now there's two questions. And the first is it in the sea because it had problems, or are they both in the sea because one were trying to retrieve the other? Right? Had they come down in, somewhere else and taken off? So that's one thing. Was it an accident? Sort of, is that why that there was there? Or is it because out over there we've got a massive area called Dogger Bank, and they think it's where a meteor hit. It's a massive big hole in the sea's floor, and I don't know whether they've had anything down there at the bottom. It's that deep.
Right.
Question is, could there be an undersea base there?
Well, see, and now if we look at history, even the sailors, they've seen lights, in the ocean for hundreds of years.
Oh, yeah.
And scientists blame plankton, that bioluminescent plankton, they blame that. But, I think even Christopher Columbus saw lights. Lewis and Clark, and don't quote me on that, but I thought he saw lights underneath the ocean, or in the ocean too. So, I mean, this phenomenon's been going on for a long time. So, the theory is you're right that there are probably underground bases.
But I've had people that have contacted me. Like I said, we used to have a hotline, sort of like we're on my car at one time, and you could phone up, have you seen a UFO? And, sort of like, yeah, anyway, but you would get people that would have seen or know something, or they'd taken the number down and passed it on to somebody else and said, you need to talk to this guy. You know what I mean? Now, at the moment, I'm dealing with two people. One that were a witness when this happened, and he's getting on. He's really getting on now as an old fisherman. But you know, the thing is, I'll tell you now, some of these fishermen, and this is from one of the guys that have been brought up around here, they do not like talking about these things.
No.
Yeah. And you know why?
Yeah, it's bad mojo.
You've just hit it. You've just hit it on the head. Yeah. One, he turned around, and this is going back some time now. In fact, there were two of them, and they'd said to me that they'd seen something, and they said they were fishing. Just carry on. Don't talk about it. Don't look. And it were a young lad that had just started with them. He says, he said, there's no buts. He said, you can pack up and you can go home and stay home. He says, if you want to be talking about anything silly. And so he never spoke. He said, I never spoke about it. He said, because he says, I was young. I had a child, you know, sort of like, I think a child on way anyway, I think it was, if I remember right. And he said that, you know, like you've got to bring your family up, and you've got a job. And jobs were scarce, you know, it started getting a little bit scarce, you know. So you don't say anything. He said, so I didn't say anything. You know.
Now Roger makes a good point. And I really didn't think about this until I just read this. And the reason why I read comments, ladies and gentlemen, is for the audio people for the next day. It says, I wonder if aliens could possibly be making contact with other life on Earth besides man, like dolphin, whales, or other primates and apes. Now, with that being said, why is it they are finding sperm whales in the middle of the Amazon jungle? So why is that?
This is a big question.
I mean, I don't think man's doing it. Why are they finding whales inland?
Well, the thing is, you know, we've heard of this on a couple of occasions where, especially when there's been, you know, when there's been crop circles, and it's funny. This is when I was crop circling, by the way. We were just talking about this earlier on. This is some time ago now. And there were some things found, not that one actually, when I think about it. There'd been some things found around these crop circles that shouldn't have been there. And guess what one of them was? A whale.
Really?
Yeah. This is going up. I was just looking at this the other day, and I was going through. You know, we're talking about flipping heck. We're talking over 20.
Even Samantha says Star Trek saved the whales, and I think that was the series too.
It was.
Yeah.
I think we really need to save the humans at the moment. You know, because there was something else as well. There was something else bizarre where some animal, and I'm trying to think. My memory is not as good as it used to be, and there was a whale found near a crop circle, but then there were other things that had been found as well.
What a whale's what, 20, 30 tons?
I don't think it were a massive. It wasn't one of the, you know, blue whales or anything like that, but it were nevertheless, it was a whale. And I'm just trying to think. There was something where someone said there'd been a monkey, a hare or something that had been seen and found near a crop circle years ago. You know what I mean? This is going back now some time. I'll have to have a look, because I'll have to have a look in these files and go through. I've got that much stuff in these files. But yeah, I mean, the person were right had said that, you know, could they be contacting, you know, sort of like animal species as well as humans? You know, and again, we come into that big question, which is you know, look at the cryptozoology part with Bigfoot. Is Bigfoot, is it more alien? Is it something like the missing link? Or is it something spiritual? You know, sort of like, you know, it's like just what, you know, just what is. But there's links, you know. I mean, I've been watching programs and you can see things above the trees and you can see things through the trees, and they must be in the sky to see them, you know. And, you know, they're sort of like going in and out of view, but through the you know, gaps in the trees and what have you. So the elevated eye, so they must be in the sky. And then all of a sudden, then they're down at ground level. So we're looking at the UFO aspect, you know, to like these stories, you know, where things have been seen. And some of them have been seen right next to, you know, sort of like Bigfoot. And then we're talking about, there's a few different types here, and I was going to say on the show the other night, but I was just enthralled by the show the other night. I would just want to listen, but we're talking about shadow people, shadow beings, right?
Right.
Yeah? Which I know that the technology what we use is basically teleportation, slows us down. We can walk through solid objects, but they were talking about the other thing, which is the glimmer man.
Right.
Now, I think personally that the glimmer man is another race of aliens, technology of doing the same thing, of using this teleportation. I think it's a different, you know, like it's a different form of teleport, you know, like different models of cars. You know what I mean? I think it's something.
Wasn't it Star Trek? It looked like glitter when they teleported.
Yes, yeah. Some other people see different things. If it isn't glitter, right? Yeah. Shadows. Sometimes it is something like swirly. You know, like it's like smoke. I don't know. Is that the best? You could call it smoke, or you could say it's like looking into a black bowl, you know, like with water in it, and if you tap it, you'll get the movement, you know, the ripples and everything.
Right.
So it could also, there's, you know, like a possibility that there is that form of technology as well for another alien race's what do you call it, teleportation system. But
Well, you know, a lot of people say that, and they see like the Mirage, or they see like the movie The Predator, right? They see like the outline, but it's like a mirror. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've seen a video that looked like something that's cloaked like the Predator, and that scared the hell out of me. And that was Barb Sheep's video.
Yes, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. The other thing as well, what we were talking about, and in some of these areas, I was saying there were big cats. You know, we're talking the other week about big cats in some areas where we've had lots of UFOs. Sometimes we've had UFOs. There's been reports of crop circles, not big crop circles, small crop circles, right? And
Right.
we've had UFOs, crop circles, and we've had big cats. Then all of a sudden, we start getting people talking and telling us, did they tell you about what else had got? No. What have they got? And they said, well, there's been a lot of dead cows, bulls, and sheep. Yeah. Now, the thing is, it's like I'd explained to me, and it was as simple as this. And that is farmers, you know, not wanting to talk about any of these things, because obviously they'd gone through a heck of a lot of problems with, you know, like the what do you call it, mad cow, bovine, and all this lot, you know, problem, right? So they're not happy that people are trampling around and going near, you know, looking for either crop circles or looking for big cats or looking for dead sheep, cattle, right?
Yeah, they don't want the attention because they don't want everybody over on their property destroying their crops. Yeah, and
Exactly. Yeah.
so they try to keep it hush hush.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and then you got these igmos that are trying to recreate this, you know, phenomenon. But now, and I'll be truthful, you know, some of them, yes, you know, I've seen the videos where they got the college students and people out there with the coat hangers around their head and a little thing, and they focus on the light in the distance and the 2x4. I get that, but some of these are so intricate, there's no way you can recreate those.
Oh, well, I can tell you now. Yeah. They're very good at what they do, and I've seen them. You know, like I've seen videos of them doing this with the planks of wood and what have you. But when you've got, you know, something like a 1,000 feet long, you know, sort of like crop circle that's so long and intricate, and it's been done over a few hours in the night, and the next day when people have got up to there, there's no way. You'd have to have an army of people out there, right? Yeah. Now I've seen people saying that they can coordinate and they can do things, you know, with night vision and what have you. But the problem is, and this is a big problem, when you get more people, you know, you start treading down areas and what have you. Now, I've heard them say no, because we only use one walkway and all this lot and what have you. There's always somebody, you know, there's always somebody that forgets and are walking, you know what I mean?
But see, one thing you cannot fake with the crop circles is how they burst from the inside out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And the, I don't know what the term is, and Agent Smith, Samantha, or somebody, there is some kind of electronic or some kind of radiation that makes it burst.
Yeah.
And it's not snapped like where you stepped on.
Yeah. Oh, what they call it now? It's like it goes like a pod.
Yes.
It goes like a pod, and it hasn't been bent, but it looks like it's been done by some kind of radio wave.
Right, like heat or something.
Yeah, yeah. So basically just fallen down rather than being bent down. They're just
Right.
with these waves. And so, nobody wants to talk about it because, basically they can shut your farm down and you've lost money. Yeah, you've lost your way of life and what have you. So there's that aspect. But like I said, there's all sorts of other things coming into it when, there's big cats being seen and there's wolf men, dog men, Bigfoot being seen. Now, I know that there's the place in Midlands near Birmingham, Cannock Chase, another famous place, for these creatures. Sort of like people claim to have seen Bigfoots, dog men, and children with black eyes, sort of like in this area.
That's one thing I do not want to see is children with black eyes.
I don't want to see anything with black eyes.
So,
Believe me. But again, sort of like I've never come across, because it's away from me, sort of like I've never been there, but it's a fascinating place. Then we go to the Loch Ness Monster, sort of like, and people say, oh, well, yeah, well, just because one person has faked something, sort of like a picture once, doesn't mean to say everything is faked. And it's a legend anyway. It goes back.
Yeah. Now, I do agree with you that the guy did. I can't think of his name, and whoever's out there that wants to say his name, that's fine by me because I don't remember his name. They took the picture of the submarine with the dinosaur head. That was a fake picture.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to make money. Now, did the phenomenon exist prior to that? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
It went back hundreds and hundreds of years.
It was that, now then, just think what they got, Saint. Oh.
So I'm going to show everybody my UFO fidget spinner I always play with during the show. I was showing Russ during the show. It's my UFO fidget. It's a fidget spinner I play with during the show.
I'm just trying to think of his name now.
Hey, Gary, welcome to the show. But Gary, what's the guy that's named that faked the Loch Ness Monster picture, or Roger or Samantha? If you had never brought that up, I would have told you who it was.
I'm getting the same, honestly.
But we all know it's fake, and that is the famous picture.
Yeah, that is only one. I mean, there's other people that are seeing these things and taking pictures now.
But you remember the famous picture of the underwater?
Yeah.
Do you like that? Yeah. It's a not and it glows. It glows. It's pretty neat. And I do play with it. So, but I am now the other thing I play with. Well, I don't really try to play with. It's my little tinge unit for my back. So,
oh no.
So if you ever see me mess with something, I'm adjusting the strength. Yeah.
Have you ever turned it up by accident? Have you ever turned it up by accident?
If you ever see me go,
yeah. Oh,
yeah. That's what happened.
I've got mine next door, and I
Robert Wilson. Yes, Robert Wilson took the famous. Thank you. I thought it was Robert, but I wasn't for sure. Thank you. But now there was a scientist that took that underwater picture. I don't know, was it back in the 80s or 90s or what was it? Of the dorsal fin or the fin. And of allegedly a Loch Ness, if you remember that.
I do.
And they're like, no, that's not what it is. And I'm like, what the hell? It's not. What else could it be? Because it swung by the camera, allegedly.
Yeah, I mean that did look. That did look
like the flipper.
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, Robert Wilson. Thank you, Samantha. Robert Wilson.
But of course, you know what's up there, don't you?
What's
the
that?
The famous haunted building that Alistair Crowley owned.
Oh yeah.
And there were people wanting to buy that place. I think there's some. I did a rock star buy it.
That I'm not for sure. We did a show on him and his little following a few months ago. Yeah.
But anyway, so there's that up there. But so do you wonder whether people purposely go to these areas because there is something there? You know what I mean? Like
yes,
the monster in the lake. There's also been a lot of lights around, seen around that area as well. So
yes,
so that is just one place that you could talk about and about again, sort of like where the strange things. Again, there's talk about seeing dogmen, and like werewolf type up there, also. So if you come back a little bit further down, there's quite a lot of strange, places where there's a lot of activity.
yeah. Samantha just said it was microwave transit and heating theory is the explanation of the explosion of the nodes and the wheat inside the crop circle. And that is correct.
Yeah.
That's how they actually determine if it was man-made or extraterrestrial, I guess you can say, or artificial, or not artificial, but not man-made, I guess.
Yeah.
So
natural.
Right.
Naturally. Like I said, I've got a lot of pictures of when I went on my first crop circle some years ago. And then we had them in areas because they're not always in Wiltshire, sort of like they're scattered all around the UK. And we'd been to Sandon Castle near Wakefield. And there's like the remains of a castle. And in that area, sort of like we had this crop circle. Now, in this one, there was a place, and what happened was when we went across, there'd been a lot of UFO reports around this area where I'm in these pictures with the crop circles. So, it's like, wow. Daytime, these 3 UFOs had been seen over a building, and then all of a sudden there's crop circles, So, it just makes you wonder sometimes. There's a lot of things, a lot of different things. We're also talking about ley lines, and a lot of these areas have these invisible lines running through. And if you have a look, on maps, I think the running line with old Roman forts and what have you, with churches, because churches are usually built on the top of some other sort of like cultures area of, where they had people buried in their religion before us, sort of like before we came Christianity and what have you, Roman, Celtic, Beaker people, and then what you call the Brigantes, sort of like that were here before, sort of thing. So a lot of these areas, sort of like where I've been, I found I found this as well, which is a bit sort of like it takes me back a bit, because some of these areas where there has been like little stone circles, right? There's been standing stones, and what had happened in the 70s when they started building, they started knocking and pulling it up a lot of these
Really?
stones, sort of like, and just getting rid of them. And I've actually, I give a book to a friend, which I'd got years ago, and it showed you an area in Bingley where they just built these new flats. I think I've spoken about this, and it showed you the standing stones before the actual buildings were built, and then they're just gone. And they probably used the stone, like for making brand new houses. The other thing, what we came across, have you heard of Celtic heads?
No.
Right. Again, in this area where I'd been abducted and what have you, a gentleman found in his garden this head, his skull, and this is in one place, because there's a couple of places I've come across this, and it's a tradition to bury, the dead, sort of
Right.
like, and so sometimes they're like a severed head, sort of like
Really?
a tradition with Celts and what have you. And if you dig any of these up, whether the actual skeleton, the skull, or the stone skeletons, the stone skull, believe me, you can set things off.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think one guy, he just moved into an house, and bad luck. That what I mean. That's all I'll say. Just total bad luck.
Well, let me ask you this. Why is it UK has all these more UFO reports than everybody else?
Why?
I don't know. You got a lot
Well,
more. It seems like a lot more activity than most people.
well, at one time I used to be on the ball, and we used to get a lot of reports coming in. Now, what happened basically? I got a bit, because becoming ill and one thing and another. What I decided to do is come away, and I'm still interested in the reports, but the thing is, I will actually filming these things, and a couple of friends out filming as well. So the thing is, people can claim. I've seen something, and it claims this place is a hotspot. Now, let me tell you about hotspots, right, and UFO capitals. The change, right, yeah? Because what will happen is an area will have a lot of sightings, just like round here, just like in Bradford and other places, sort of like down south, up north in Scotland and in Wales. And what will happen is you'll get a cluster of reports. You'll get a heck of a lot of reports. And what happens then is there might be in one place, and then in a few months or 6 months later, you'll get them in another area, right? And you'll get them somewhere else. Now, if you've got somebody that's good with media, they can tell people, oh, there's been a lot here. Some person might just be gathering reports and not go to the media. Some people might, sort of like just might be just for their own personal gathering and not tell anybody. So what happens is the next year you'll get another area becomes prominent, and then somewhere else will. And so now over the years, what will happen is sometimes these areas, what were hotspots originally, like maybe 10 years, 15 years before, all of a sudden they'll start up again. So, it's not there's one place only that's having hotspots and a UFO capital, because they move around, because these things move around. But sometimes they come back. And then sometimes people like myself think, rather than, sort of like sitting and listening to people and, sort of like, I'll get out and film. So then, of course, what's better than actually capturing things for a UFO report? If you're capturing quite a lot, that's quite a lot of reports that you've gathered in a way, because you've got the report. If it's right and it's time coded, sort of like, well, it shall have to sort mine out again after it battery run down, and you've got time coded images, right? Yeah, so as good as a report. It's your own my own personal report anyway. And you've got it there. And sort of like, no matter what, it's a report as such. And it's valid because it's there. Now, that's my way now of I suppose, reporting. Sort of like, there's your evidence. You want the people always want to say, I remember some years ago, I was talking, and I've said, and I filmed this, and my friend had his binoculars. No, he had his binoculars, did Tom. And I looked to him, and, I could see by his face, and he went and grabbed these binocs, and he's looking, and he had a better camera than me at the time. And I'm thinking, so this chap, he says, why didn't you use binoculars? And I thought to myself, and I just said, well, I said, if I use binoculars, you won't be looking at the image. And this stood up, and she shouts, how rude are you? And I thought to myself, what? I've just answered a valid question with a valid answer, sort of like, yeah, why didn't I? Well, you know why? Because you're watching the flying man come down, right? Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, are you just here to cause trouble, girl? Is he here sort of like, what was it? Was he being serious? You know what I mean?
Now explain to people what the flying man is, in case if they don't know.
It's a film I took in 2000 back in West Yorkshire, Bradford, a place called Queensbury. And basically, I was at a friend's home, and there'd been a lot of reports around that area. And we'd been traveling and we'd seen things ourselves, and there were flying triangles coming over on a night. I'll tell you what there is. There's an aircraft that comes over on a night time, and it looks like a flying triangle, and it purposely comes over looking like a flying triangle, and it's an old propeller driven aircraft, and it's big. And it comes over.
Are you talking like the German one, like they had back in World War II that they were trying to develop?
No, I'm talking about one of our aircraft. It was just like, I think it was just like a prop, twin prop aircraft.
Right.
You couldn't tell because it was pitch black, and I put my night vision on it, and I filmed it, and you can see, oh yeah, I can see what it is. And then a police helicopter turned up, right? Yeah. I've got the video of that somewhere. But anyway, I'm filming because all this is going on. I'd gone up to my friends and I was showing him this piece of new technology wasted on me. And I'm saying, oh, it said that there's I think it was it were either 7 or 9, I think it was, satellites. It was a new what do you call it? I think a Garmin, you know, it basically satellite navigation system, right? And it was wasted on me. And I'm looking, I said, oh, it says that there's, you know, these satellites above, which is picking up the information for it to work to tell you where you are, right? Yeah. And as I'm saying that and looking up, this thing is coming over above us. And I looks over and I'm opening the car, the back of the car now with all my equipment in. And I'm looking to say, have you seen? And I don't even have to ask him. I can see his face. The next thing, he goes through the door. And what happens is I pull my camera out and puts the battery in, messing about as usual. Oh, you know, when you start messing about and all of it, you're panicking. And all of a sudden, you're making more problems. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, and I can't get the battery in. Slow down, put the battery in, turn it straight on, and put the camera up. And I'm looking at this object now. It's just gone across, and now it's coming down. And it looks now like something falling, like an ejector seat, like that. And it goes behind the fence like this, you know, your backdrop, a chain fence, it in a distance. And it looks like a flying man. Some people say it looks like an ejector seat. But we did the triangulation. And if it were an ejector seat, it'd have to be something like 70 foot long.
Wow.
By 38 foot wide or something, 40 foot wide. You know what I mean? So I went looking for it later on that night because he said, come on, we'll have a look. So we had a look at the object. We had to plug it back then, not like now with SD cards. You know what I mean? Sort of like plugged it in to his television and we were sat and we just could not believe his eyes. I mean, I was looking as well for where it had come down. So he says, don't go out, Russ. And he had a real bad feeling about this. So we sat and we had a coffee and we were looking at it, and I'm wanting to get off. I'm really wanting to get off. And set off home later on. And I had 2 hour missing time.
Wow.
And if you remember, I showed you the photographs of that area where I'd taken. So that I think it was the next day, a day later, I'd gone out to this area and I'd taken a camera, filming video camera, and the camera taking shots. And I found 2 things. I showed them. You've got like in that area, I don't know what it is. And then there's a black flying triangle, you know, sort of like in the distance, in the same area where that object had landed, where we presume it had landed. Then what happened when I went back that day, back to see my friend Tony and what have you, he said, you know, come in, put kettle on and what have you, made us a coffee, and we sat talking because we'd been talking about things that had been seen, like that pterodactyl, if you remember. We spoke about the neighbours had seen this pterodactyl. And he said the neighbours had been across. He says, and they were telling me that a white helicopter landed at the top field and it had NASA on the side.
See, that's crazy.
So I've been now. I'm changing this room, this office, and I'm putting the maps back up. So I'm going to be putting some of the maps back up where these are pinpointed. You know, where the UFO was seen and where the helicopter landed. You know, like said NASA on the side. You know. Yeah, so that was the flying man. And a very strange case. You know, he's one of my favourite. You know, one of my favourite clips is that, to be quite honest. Because no matter what anybody says, it is clear. The problem is when I start zooming in and getting too close, it starts going. It's almost like there's something, a force field around it. You know, because you can watch it and you can see it come down and it's clear, you know, but you're just not sure what it is. Some people think it. I've had somebody contact us, think it's a dolphin.
A dolphin in the sky?
Again, you know the one I filmed, the dolphin?
Yeah.
In Scarborough. I've had a message. Do you think it's a dolphin, Russ? It looks to me like a dolphin.
Wow.
Do you know why it looks like a dolphin? When it comes down? Because it looks like a dolphin.
Huh.
Now, thinking about this, right? Yeah. Somebody else has said that they think it looks like, you know, if you get a telephone receiver,
right?
If you get your telephone receiver and you turn it at an angle, right? Yeah, it looks like it just looks like a receiver. Well, it looks like a receiver would look like. But also, what does it look like? Even when you do that, it looks like somebody's trying to make a dolphin shape in the sky. Now, I'm finding this quite bizarre, to be quite honest. But what I'm going to do, right, yeah, because on the other computer, I saved the images of it when it came down. Now, I'll send them across. You can, you know what I mean, and see what you think. But again, it's like, you know, what is it? Just what is it? It didn't look like a dolphin when it went overhead. When it went across, it looked like a right funny type of triangle, and it was two-tone. I couldn't say whether it was silver and white or white and silver, if you know what I mean. It was two-tone. But then again, having said that, I looked, the next thing, I'm opening the car door, you know, the back of the car, you know, the door at the back, the boot, and getting my gear out and what have you, putting that back in because that was expensive. I thought, better put that in first when I get the camera out, you know what I mean? Close the door and start filming. Now, you know, sort of like, I only had a glimpse of it like that when I'm talking to Tony, you know, like saying, you know, like there's these satellites above and yeah, you've seen it, all right, you know what I mean? And it was sort of like panicking, trying to get that sorted out, battery in and what have you, and take and then it was straight across, and then it was coming, banking and coming down, and it was some distance. It was some distance, I'll tell you now. You know, sort of like when it came over us, it wasn't that fast. It didn't seem to be that fast. But once I'd been in the car, got the what do you call it out, and it wasn't minutes or anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
It might have been nearly, you know, maybe so many seconds. you know, sort of like it should not have been over there and banking and coming down, which led me to the belief that, you know, could it have been, you know, sort of like had something hit it, you know, sort of like had it been attacked by whatever in our airspace, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
because you wasn't too far from water, though, was you?
from there,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
you was a good ways from water, or you wasn't?
I was quite away from water. That's when I lived in West Yorkshire, and you're looking at sort of like you're looking at least 70 miles east, 70 miles west, at least to get to any water.
Well, see, that's not far from us. For us, I mean,
No, no.
you know, so
But what we do have reservoirs.
oh, do you?
Oh yeah. Now this is something that keeps on coming up because in a famous case, when a flying saucer was being chased, what did it do? It flew, right? Yeah, and it stopped and zoom in the what I'm saying stopped. It went zzz, boom into a lake, and
Oh,
the jet
wow.
fighters went straight past it. Jet fighters went straight past it, and it had gone in the lake. You know, then the jet fighters had flown past and what have you, and a few minutes later, it came back out. You know, so these catchment areas, these lakes, sometimes they come down in reservoirs as well. Have you heard of that?
Yes, I have.
I went to see. You see, I worked for a water company, and I'd gone over to see about one that had landed near this reservoir. And did I get a talking to the next day? Well, these guys turned up, and they were told, go to the boss's office, and yeah, okay. Then I usually were in his office. We were first in, first out on the morning. Get his equipment, and we were off. Sort of like, and this time, my boss wasn't there. It was, but what he'd done was he'd gone out, and these two guys were there, and said, "Oh, like the here that you was at this place, like the other night, this area where this craft had come down, famous case actually." And I said, "Well, I were over, yeah, just looking around. Well, what are you looking for?" I said, "Oh, we'd heard that something had come. Nothing came down." Before I could even say it, nothing came down. And then my boss came in, like, and he sat down, and he said, "Well, what do you think?" He says, and he says, "Well, what to?" And he said, "Well, he said that, yeah, he's been over there." And I said, "Well, there's no gates or anything. I said, you just walk in." And he says, "Your employer, you don't walk in, like." And I said, "Well, it's open to the public." So, "Well, what are you doing at that time going?" You know what I mean? Because, yeah, at a reasonable time, but, you weren't, we're really late, wasn't it? And sort of like, well, yeah, it was, sort of like 12 o'clock at night, you know what I mean? Not a lot you can see, is there? Anyway, so you know, my boss, I could tell he wasn't happy. You know what I mean? I wasn't happy either. You know what I mean? So, you know, I was told, you know, like to not go around and sort of like, you know, I said, well, it's public property, so I'm just digging myself in deeper. But anyway, you know, it would seem to me, you know, that something. That would be bizarre. Yeah, so you know, it was like public property, but you know, you work for us, keep out. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So you know, I didn't go back actually. You know, so just it makes you wonder. You know, sort of like are these things when they're being chased, are they purposely making for water to hide? You know, I've heard people say they're using water for energy source. You know, but personally, I think it's just to basically hide. You know, like in these areas, and then wait until jets have flown by. You know, sort of like, and then sort of like come out and go in opposite direction. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
Oh, you can say that again, Chris. It really is, mate.
That's
You
crazy.
know? It
That's
just makes you
wild.
wonder, doesn't it? You know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But how many more times does this happen?
Oh, there's no telling that how many times this happens that we don't even know about. Yeah.
No, because the other funny thing is, I told you about the two balls of light I called Tom and Jerry, right? Now this specific night, there were two balls of light seen, and it was the 2nd of February, 1998. Never forget the night. We had the most ever UFO reports come in for one day, and I think we had 88 UFO reports for that one night, you know, for that day, right? And again, it were two lights moving, diffuse lights. Now, some people say again that sometimes these lights were like strobing. You could see through a video camera with night vision, you could see them strobing. But people said when they were looking at them that they were just two like bright lights moving. So looking through video cameras with night vision and looking with the naked eye, you were seeing two objects, but you got a different opinion. You know, you got you know, sort of like with naked eye, it was just like two lights and no strobing, night vision strobing. And again, we had some very strange things where two ladies were talking about what they'd seen on that night and what they've drawn and what they told us and what they saw is something out of a science fiction book. And the other thing is, both of the ladies were a couple of miles away from each other. And they were talking about being inside a craft. They didn't actually say it as such, but they drew inside a craft, and this person stood at this console, right? Yeah. Now the problem is, you're talking to two pensioners, and very strange, because I'm thinking, but you've drawn the inside. You must you must have been inside to draw the inside. Oh, I never thought
Right.
of it.
Right.
Never thought of that. Do you see? Very bizarre. So again, a lady had called, and she told me where she lived in this area, near a famous wood what I once camped in, and I'll never camp in that wood again. Well, me, my friend, and his cousin, and 4 other lasses with these tents. And I'm not joking. I was scared stiff. My mate was scared stiff. We packed up the tent. The lasses left their tent. They didn't pack it up, and we got out of there. Because there were dogs and like cats' heads hanging on like, what do you call it, fishing wire.
Oh, wow.
And we'd heard these, around and what have you. And we said, shh. And I was panic stricken, honestly. I could not believe it. And I said to my friend, sort of like, I think we better get out of here, And he says, yeah, I think you're right. So, but it's my new tent. I said, well, you pack it up then. You know what I mean? You want to take it, help us. You better help us. So I'm messing about with his tent, and I'm saying, come on. And we got out of that area right fast. Anyway, a bit further down is this area. There's like a new housing estate, and next to that is like an old farm building, and there's like this man-made lake. And the lady says that the 2 balls of light came down into the lake and then took off again. So
yeah, that's crazy.
Why did it do that? And then this has been seen all over West Yorkshire. And it went over east, and it was seen back up, I think, as far up in Newcastle, somewhere, I think, if I remember rightly. Like with the reports, it'd been seen, good 100 miles at least, which is for us going from there 100 miles, you're going to the, out to the coast and out to sea, and back out to sea over there on the east is here. And that's where it were heading, sort of like, so many reports, 88 reports. I've got them here, I can show you. Later on, when we're off air, I can show you, because personal details, but some of the drawings as well of what was seen, you would not believe it, But what I've done is I've copied, I've done my artist's impression of what was seen. Not as good as not as good as a person that's sat down and done it. Because you always get people that, oh, well, I'm not an artist. You don't have to be. Just draw what you saw. Sketch what you saw. You don't have to be a, Picasso or whatever, or Rembrandt or whatever.
Right.
Just show us, like put it down as you've seen it, as you saw it yourself. Amazing. I've got a few people that have, and some spectacular craft which look like they've come from some kind of scientific show or some, motion picture.
That's
Sort of like
wild.
with information, about things spinning around one way and an object in the center of the craft spinning the opposite direction, and these tail fins that come out, and just amazing. Sort of like put a bit of time into it. We've got things like that as well. But to put somebody's hands and the head as if you out were they sat down? Were you looking above them, over them? You've got to have been. And the thing is, both of the women drew the same thing.
Yeah, that's wild.
Very different, one were round console, one was square, but all buttons on and these hands, and there's other things. And I'm always looking for people that get in touch to report things. I'm always looking to see if any information that's similar that fits in, Chris.
Right.
So, yeah,
That's awesome.
Well, I think it is, myself. But there's a lot. Why, the thing is, why? Because it's happening and people are reporting. In fact, people are reporting more now than ever before. And in spite of silly people on TV, you'll always get, when you're going on a show, for instance, if you're going on a TV program or on a news program, they've always got to put some spooky or X-Files. Now, I know we put stuff on and what have you for our shows and stuff, but the way they do it, it's like, and they always say the same thing. Are you looking for green men, Russell? No. Do you know any? And it's always do. You know what I mean? Or UFO. What do you call it? X-Files will play. You know what I mean? Sort of thing. And sort of like, and they say, "Oh, do you like that, Russ?" Sorry, I must have missed something.
What?
What was that? I'm sorry, I must have. But the way they do it, it's not because it's us, that have an understanding at reporting that are actually, letting people know what's going on. This is more of a tongue-in-cheek taking out of us, taking the mickey out of us, which is a different thing altogether. You know what I mean? It's like my mum used to say, laugh with me, not at me,
Right.
But it's a case of, it seems to be, directed at sort of like mickey taking. Although people just lately have done what I did. When I was asked to go on a show and there was a poor chap talking, and I think he had some problem. He said he had a problem with his health. Two people taking the mickey out of somebody is a form of bullying. To us, like taking the mickey out of a young man who's obviously got a problem, he says he has, and, taking the rise is more than bullying, So when I was an ex-person, when they started with me, I just turned around and said, what pair of prats they were, and just put the phone down. It would, a fairly well-known show, but I don't have to go on shows like that where, you're taking the mickey out of people and sort of like being nasty and bullying. I don't want to be associated with that. So, best thing, I just said bye and put the phone down. And apparently that's happened again last week on a big show where somebody said something to somebody, a UFO investigator, and he'd just turn around and sorry, I can't hear you. Sorry, oh no, I can't, and just put the phone down. Everybody apparently is saying that they knew what he'd done and why he'd done it, you know, sort of like, and people, do we have to put up with this? No, we don't. I'm not so hard up for, you know, sort of like getting out there and sort of like promotion and what have you to be made a fool of, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's
Right.
like now, especially with the internet now, you know, they're struggling. These people on prime time TV shows are struggling for the simple reason you go to a show where people are not going to be rude. You know, they're going to ask questions. Okay, you can have a bit of fun, and I nobody likes to have fun and a laugh more than me. But when you start being nasty to people, and especially people that seem to maybe have some kind of an illness, that's when I'm afraid, you know, sort of like, that's not entertainment. You know what I mean?
Right.
And bullying at its worst. So, like I say, this is why shows now, like yours, again, I was watching you last night. Amazing. There were so many questions I wanted to ask, but I will
Yeah, we
just
got another one coming up in a few minutes too.
I would just listen. I'll be listening when I go off. I'll have to go spend a penny and take a painkiller, and I'll be watching you.
Yeah, we're getting ready to go live in about 15 minutes.
But I wanted to ask a question.
Yeah,
if it's all right.
absolutely.
I know that you know, sort of like the lady seemed to be sat on the fence a bit, right? And you know, like a lot of the questions, no, we don't know about that. And I work for the what do you call it, company over there? Is it National Park? Is it? Now the thing that this is what I always think. This is just my opinion. Is that, you know, when you're working in an office and you're working side by side, maybe the police or National Park or whatever, do you think that when they know that you're looking into this and you're talking on shows and what have you, do you think they're going to be letting you know? Do you think they're going to be all lovey-dovey with you?
No.
Really?
No.
And sort of like let you know what's going on?
No.
100%.
No.
Because I don't think, you know, obviously doing a good job. And sort of like, I've never heard, well, there's a reason for that. And that's because they don't want you to know.
Yes.
And I mean, the fact is, you know, sort of like, she's on your program talking because of all the things that are going on and people that are reporting. There's another factor as well with this. And this is, and whether they like it or not, and this is the truth, I've had a pretty good rapport with people over the years, because I don't give people's names, addresses out and details. I always say, I'll give you their details, you know, like in the media. If you want to get in touch with them, you can do so, right? But beware, because, you know, sort of like you might get sort of like verbally attacked. You might even get attacked. You just don't know. It happens. And believe me, I know it happens. Now, the thing is, you know, sort of like a lot of the journalists, well, how comes they haven't been in touch with us? You're journalists. Sometimes you can be bloody hard work. You know, sort of like, it's all right. It's a double-edged sword. They can be nice and they can cut you next. And it's always allegedly. And I always say to them, why don't you say allegedly when you've got someone in politics coming and talking BS? Why don't you say to them allegedly, I'm going to do this. Allegedly, you're going to do, you know, why don't they say that? They can say it to us. You know what I mean? Why don't they say it to, you know, people? if anybody's got a right to ask and say allegedly to people, it's people in politics, believe me. I think we all know.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying? And the truth of the matter is, they don't like it. Well, because I don't, sort of like give people's details, and they're very wary. Sort of like some people will go running, sort of like they'll make out up and they'll go talk to anybody in media, you know what I mean? But if people, sort of like have something and what have you, they think twice. I've been sent a few things and I say to them, it's good. I'm not sure what it is, but, sort of like, and I think people have, because they see me in the paper a lot, and they're thinking, oh, well, can we get in? Well, if you've got something interesting, why not? And he's showing me it. Well, there's only one way, and that is I can, like I've said, I can give you their details. If you want to get in touch with them, do so to promote them, the next person. So that's what I do. I used to do it a lot. Now
I'm a firm believer of it. But it's been a great show, but I do got to run. Because we got another show less than 8 minutes.
I know. I'll be watching. Like I say, I'll be down in a bit.
All right. Great show. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you shortly.
Bye.
Take care, everybody. Bye.
Cheers, Chris. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.